All right, I've just got the information about the February inflation data, but I think we need to talk more about this, talk about Indonesia's macroeconomy this year. And we now have our own, not our own, have a Bank Permata Chief Economist, Josua Pardede in our studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mas Acir.
Yes, for coming here, finally.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Before that, we always do online conversation with this program, with 3 Hour Show. So our first question, what is your comment about the step from Bank Indonesia for putting the newest rate?
Yeah, I think I agree with the Bank Indonesia decision to maintain policy rate currently at 5.75%, because we think that the inflationary pressure in Indonesia will be easing this year, taking into account that effect of fuel price hikes in September last year will also be diminishing. Other than that, also we are looking at stable rupiah exchange rate currently. So basically, we are still expecting that Bank Indonesia will likely maintain policy rate at 5.75%, taking into account that the inflation and then rupiah exchange rate to be manageable. So I think that those two factors or reasons why Bank Indonesia will likely maintain policy rate at 5.75%.
Right. So I've got just the information about the rate of inflation in February. It's actually turned to 5.74%. So it's higher than the prediction, 3 to 1%. So what's your comment? And what's the cause of the number of the inflation in this month?
Yeah, in February inflation, we'll look at the higher volatile food inflation. This is related to the food prices, because normally in the beginning of the year, some kind of food stuff, the supply, there will be some kind of supply shock. So we are looking at supply shock in the production in the rice, for example. So what we're looking at the market currently, the price of rices and some other commodities actually tended to be higher, but this trend will be diminishing or will be easing whenever it enters the harvest season in March and April. So basically, this is basically kind of a short-term inflationary price increase, in the beginning of the year. But if we look at the core inflation, the demand side inflation, what the some kind of variables or factors that Bank Indonesia look in, actually the core inflation still remain manageable at around 3%, still below 4%. So basically, this is a good news when we are looking at the core inflation, the demand side inflation manageable. It implies that the private consumption or the consumption power is still relatively manageable. So we're still expecting that for this year, full year GDP growth to be relatively better compared to other peers in ASEAN.
Right. Oh, okay. We have to see from that perspective, compare it to other countries in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia countries. But it's still interesting. You've mentioned about supply shocks in February, and also actually, let's say me and other people or the audience as a ordinary citizen who just know about the facts that inflation could come from the food inflation itself, who could be with a higher number. Well, when we talk about chili, shallots, actually it contributes to the higher food inflation. So in total, also we have this higher rate of inflation in February. So could you elaborate for this? So we can understand, maybe you can, I don't know, maybe we can control for eating our spice sambal, because our theme right now is hajatan, you know, our celebration. We always cook with something spicy and with shallot as well.
Yeah, I think we are looking at the seasonal factor or seasonal trend. In every beginning of the year, price of rice increases, and then other commodities like you mentioned, shallot, garlic, and then chili tends to be increasing. But whenever the supply side of the production of these commodities has been normalizing, I think the prices should be also normalizing. So, but we're still expecting that Bank Indonesia and government needs to strengthen the coordination in order to manage the price inflation for sure, because we have tim pengendalian inflasi in central government and also in the local government. We also have team in order to coordinate which regions or which regions that there are still deficit in some commodities, food commodities, and then other regions who are surplus in some commodities could also supply the deficit region. So I think this coordination should be strengthened going forward in order to maintain the price stability, because price stability means a lot in order to maintain the purchasing power in Indonesia.
I see. So because once I delivered the news about the quite high inflation in Bangka Belitung province, for example, because maybe in this province there is it's not the source of chili, salad, and garlic, so that's why the inflation more than 10%. So need supplies from other areas, so it could be stabilized, through the monetary and from Bank Indonesia as well. So enough talking about inflation and food inflation. I think it's last time we talk right now talk about the macroeconomy of Indonesia and the world as well, because many have said that this year is the year of economic recovery. So in your point of view, how will the recovery progress this year?
I think we look at recovery in Indonesia economy should be stronger last year, because our economy last year could grow at least 5.3%. I think that's the reason, because the private consumption, investment, and also net exports, the export minus imports also continue to recover last year. But for this year, we're still expecting slowing down a little bit on private consumption and investments, because this is basically due to we anticipate the global slowdown in many countries, in US, Europe, and also in UK, because this will lead to the slowing down in net exports. Not to mention also, we are still expecting that in the investment also will be slightly lower compared to last year, because heading to the election year, which will be held in February 2024, there is a trend. A quarter ahead of the election, the investment, particularly from foreign investment, a little bit slower. But after the announcement of the election, the investment indicators should be bounced back. So I think we're still expecting that for the economic growth this year will be slightly lower compared to last year. But still, I think Managing Director of IMF already said that Indonesia is one of the bright spots amidst the global slowdown. So I think we're still optimistic, but we still need to be cautious on the impact of the prolonging tension between Russia and Ukraine.
Right. So the external factor, we have to always be cautious and observing always the tension between Ukraine and Russia. And domestically, we need to also realize that quarter prior to the day of our election, it will be slower number in our growth. And bear in mind, after that, hopefully we will have good results. So we will go up for the number. Hopefully. Oh, all right. So you've mentioned about other countries, UK, Europe, global slowdown. So actually, when we talk about many countries, they are concerned about a recession for this year. So talking about recession, how strong? Again, we have to emphasize, like be bold and be cautious at the same time. How strong is Indonesia economies to avoid a possible recession?
First thing first is that global economy is facing probability of recession because most central banks globally also raised policy rate aggressively last year. For example, like US Central Bank raised policy rate more than 4% in a year. So this will impact negatively to the real economic activities, both investment and also private consumptions. So I think that's the reason why we're expecting global slowdown this year. But we're still optimistic that Indonesia economy still growing positively this year, because the first thing is that the private consumption that accounts more than 55% of the economy will be growing positively. And then other than that, investments also will slightly also still accounts around 30% of the economy, also still growing positively. So basically, because we are domestic economic driven, different from Singapore and most, for example, other countries that rely on external demand. So we still believe that Indonesian economy still grow positively, and I think the success story, or it happened also in 2009 when global economic financial crisis emerged that year. Indonesia GDP still grew positively at around 4%. So basically, this is basically because Indonesia is driven by the domestic economy. So I think that's the key recipe why we should be optimistic in facing to 2023.
All right, so I do agree with you. Now I'm grateful that we are driven by the domestic economics activity because it's proven, lastly, during the pandemics. All right, so about the forecast of this year's Indonesia economic growth, what is your forecast about it?
So, like I mentioned earlier, that private consumption and also investment will be slightly slowing down compared to last year. So we are expecting that the full year 2023 GDP should be ranging around 4.7 to 4.9% this year. But we are expecting for the next year, the economy will be bounce back to more than 5%. So we're still expecting that at least we will be avoiding the recession probability that maybe should be higher in some countries. So I think we still need to improve, to increase our positive notes or positive expectation of Indonesia in GDP this year.
All right, just small talks for ending our conversation.
Yeah.
I'm wearing your traditional clothes actually. Josua Pardede come from North Sumatra and
For
talking
sure,
about
yes.
hajatan or wedding or I don't know any celebration related to inflation. I mean the food from North Sumatra often using chili, salad, and garlic. So talking about the budget of any celebration in North Sumatra, maybe you have any interesting story for this? Just a brief story.
So basically, Bataknis or North Sumatra, so actually we have a very close relationship with the families. So basically, when you were born, when you're getting married, and when you pass away, there will be some hajatan. So
born, wedding, and pass away.
Yeah. So basically, it costs a lot for sure when you invite so many people, relatives or your families. But I think basically because I think the symbolic of the hajatan, in order to give some motivations when you're getting married, the elders, particularly they give some comments to give you some motivation, and then so on and so on. But basically because the budget I think is dominated by food, and then to rent for a house, or I think it's a little bit but I think the message of hajatan in North Sumatra means a lot, because every single happen to you, there will be some relatives or families to support you. I think the very close relationship in Bataknis tradition, I think it means a lot to me as well.
Right, it's one of the best example of domestic economics driven by North Sumatran people. North Sumatran. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Josua Pardede. Hopefully we can have more time, some other time, for talking more about Indonesia's and world economy.
Thank you for having me.